Well, we've been complaining about the standard of play in this year's IPL and the number of one-sided games that we've been witnessing. And what did the teams turn around and do today? On Super Sunday, the teams looked at us and threw three super overs to our faces and said, "Here you go." Welcome to another episode of End of Days Play, and you're watching Uninvited Opinions.
Wow, I think you can't ask for a more action-packed day. And at the end of the day, we now have a situation where the tournament is truly up and running and kicking. And there is going to be, as you said, marking your words from yesterday, there is going to be mad scramble for that playoff spot.
Absolutely. And in all the madness of the second game, it's easy to forget that we had a super over in the first game as well between the Sunrisers Hyderabad and the Kolkata Knight Riders. So again, Kolkata winning a game they had absolutely no business winning. And that makes it three games in this year's tournament where they've snatched victory from the jaws of defeat.
Yeah, another heist of sorts. But it was already, of course, a seesawing battle all along. Both teams had players suffering some hamstring injuries, so it kind of changed the dynamics of how they would have normally approached the game. That meant a scrambled batting order of sorts for Sunrisers while chasing a middling total set by KKR thanks to a late flourish by DK and Owen Morgan. And I thought the way after a brisk start, the way they lost wickets in a pile, I thought KKR was going to be easily able to wrap the game up. But David Warner, I haven't seen him bat ever in the middle order, but it doesn't matter where he bats. It's just the quality of the player that he is. He batted right through the end and almost saw the team through. And he must have been kicking himself for not having sealed the game in the normal play. And that meant there was a super over. But there was an unexpected ace up the sleeve of KKR, which was the new addition of an overseas bowler in the form of Loki Ferguson. And what a day he's had! What a bowling spell he had! He took those three wickets in the for not much during the first 20 overs, and then he was asked to bowl the super over and ended up dismissing the two batsmen for 2 runs. So it was very tough even for the likes of Rashid Khan to defend that meager total.
It's easy to forget that when KKR were batting at the end of the 16th over, it felt that they'll fall short of a competitive total. It looked like they were going to end up for a total of around 140, but Dinesh Karthik and Owen Morgan with some excellent late overs hitting, took them to a competitive total in excess of 160, which at Abu Dhabi gives teams a lot to play with. And surprisingly, Sunrisers, I think they maintained a good tempo at the start of their innings. They kept building towards it, but again, the middle order wobbles proved too much. And at the end, you had a limping Andre Russell bowling to David Warner, who then took it into the super over, and Lockie Ferguson, man, what a day! You've already spoken about him. There's, we were discussing earlier. Patrick Cummins has played almost every game for KKR and has only taken three wickets. And Lockie Ferguson comes in and takes 5 wickets on the day, and it was absolutely fantastic bowling to watch. And from a Sunrisers perspective, I think they would have felt that with Warner at the crease in the 19th over, they should have won the game, and especially facing a semi-fit, I mean almost an unfit Andre Russell. But I think they'll be licking their wounds and wondering, where did they lose this game?
Yeah, although Kolkata will accept those 2 points, but they have a lot of questions to answer. Their team balance, I think Russell is now proving to be more of a liability than a luxury. They need to be honest about it. Yes, on his day, I think I brought this point up yesterday. He can win a game on his day, but I don't think those days are going to be any frequent going forward. And I think even at the top, Shubman Gill is someone, although he's scoring those runs at the top, but it's not coming at any good rate, and possibly it's putting pressure on the likes of Nitish Rana or someone to go hard. Maybe that is the strategy that they have for Gill, that he needs to bat through. But I think he would do better to up the scoring rate a little bit. Otherwise, I think that is what is going to cost the initial momentum that they'll need in tougher games ahead.
Specifically touching on KKR and Russell's availability, for all we might know, he might probably sit out the next game. But then Sunil Narayan has had his action cleared officially, so he might be back available, and KKR management might want to play, so that might be a straight swap happening. But I don't see them, benching Lockie Ferguson anymore. So, your pick for the man of the match?
No-brainer, a Kiwi, Lockie Ferguson, for an excellent spell, both in the super over as well as in the main game. No other person came even close.
Fabulous to watch, and he nailed those Yorkers, he nailed those slower balls, and it was fascinating to see another genuine fast bowler on display today.
He did clock 150 for one odd delivery even today. So another bowler in the IPL. This IPL is now really rearing with raw pace.
Which brings us to the second and the madder game of the day, if I can call it that way, between the Mumbai Indians and the Kings 11 Punjab. Mumbai Indians won the toss. They decided to bat first. They didn't have a great start. I thought Kings 11 bowled really well. They kept pegging away, got wickets consistently. There wasn't a great opening stand this time between Rohit Sharma and Quinton de Kock. Surya Kumar Yadav got out for a duck as well. And Krunal Pandya and de Kock then put on a very good partnership, stabilizing the innings. And then when they fell, for a period of time, we thought, Kings 11 might be able to pull Mumbai Indians back and keep them to a gettable total. Mahela Jayawardene was, caught on camera saying that, he thinks 160 was a defendable total. Instead, Kieron Pollard and Nathan Coulter-Nile, man, that was some hitting right at the end. And they showed why they are such a dangerous team at the end and helped them get to 176. And heading into this at the mid-innings break, Mumbai Indians must have been mighty pleased with that.
Absolutely. I think it just goes to show the quality they have up their ranks. 3 quick wickets at the top did not slow their run rate. I was in awe of how Krunal Pandya actually kept the pace up. So even after those 3 quick wickets, in company of de Kock, he took the aggressor's role and allowed de Kock to settle in. But Kings 11 kept at it and kept getting those wickets, and Hardik Pandya was lost cheaply. And then there we started thinking maybe this is the time that actually Mumbai Indians batting lineup is truly getting tested. And then came Kieron Pollard. He didn't have any of the Pandya brothers to accompany him through the hitting death overs, but he had an able ally in Nathan Coulter-Nile. If anyone remembers that those 90-odd runs he scored against West Indies in the World Cup saved the day for Australia. So he's no mug with the bat for sure. And together they put a very useful partnership. Pollard has got out only once in this IPL so far, and that was the very first game in which they lost to Chennai Super Kings. So that is some amazing hitting consistency, and he's just oozing with confidence. You pitch it up, you pitch it short, he backs himself to clear any boundary in the world. And I think 176 was more than a decent total, and I think the momentum had shifted well and truly, and Kings 11 were going to be put under pressure right from the word go.
So when Kings 11 started their innings, I thought they batted really well to sort of keep up with the asking rate. They kept even though they lost a couple of wickets with Mayank Agarwal going early, and even though Chris Gayle didn't really, have a brilliant strike rate, he was still scoring a little over a run a ball, but he didn't have as big a contribution with that. I felt KL Rahul actually picked up the aggressor's role today once Agarwal fell. And he kept the scoring rate high. And then once Chris Gayle fell, Nicholas Pooran came in, whacked a couple out of the ground, which was really good to see. And then it really got, tense towards the latter part of the innings when, Pooran fell, Maxwell fell. You really thought this was Punjab's game to lose, because with, 40, 50 runs to get in the last 5 overs, you'd normally back the chasing team to get it, especially with a set batsman in Rahul at the crease. But then Jasprit Bumrah had other ideas. He was fantastic. He was fantastic today. That Yorker to get KL Rahul out was just unplayable.
Yeah, if a Yorker can get a batsman as much in form as KL Rahul, it is probably going to account for any other batsman in the world in today's game. I think it just goes to show the quality Mumbai has up its ranks across disciplines. So they always had the brilliance of Bolt at the top and the brilliance of Bumrah at the death overs. So Bumrah had an exceptional spell. Despite losing Rahul in that crucial stage, it was left to Deepak Hooda and Chris Jordan. who, of course, Chris Jordan was very lucky to actually nick that four to the fine leg boundary in the final over when it was getting really tense. But I thought it at least had someone of caliber of a proper batsman walking in at that stage. So Kings 11 could at least hope for something useful contribution from him. And I thought they should have won it had it not been for some sluggish running from Chris Jordan himself when they needed two of the final ball, and he fell few inches short. And I was wondering, oh God, is it again the tale of those few inches that's going to cost Kings 11? Remember that game when Maxwell's ball just fell short of the boundary when they needed a six?
Yeah, and I heard Simon Dole describing Chris Jordan's turning around for the second run as he's running around the Cape of Good Hope because he took such a long turn, and it did appear like that. And I was like wondering what the hell is this guy doing, but that's pressure, and and he probably lost sight of what how quickly he needed to turn around. And then getting into the first set of super overs, I've never had to use the term earlier, but the first set of super overs. I think you had to just hand it to both set of bowlers actually. Jasprit Bumrah, to be honest, when the game went into the first super over, and I thought, okay, this is Mumbai's game to win because I just did not have any confidence in Kings 11's bowlers to deliver a good over, let alone two. So when I'd already written up a scorecard to say, okay, Mumbai win by a super over, and Bumrah backed it up with a fantastic super over, considering just five. But then Shami, oh man, when he bowls like this, he's really unplayable. And which begs the question, why doesn't he do this more often when he bowls at the death?
Yes, I think it's going to be a very pleasing sign for Indian cricket lovers across. You've had two super overs in Dubai, no, three, but two super overs involving Mumbai in Dubai, where we've had to see Bumrah come out and bowl those unplayable balls. On that day, you had Navdeep Saini back it up, the other Indian quick, and today you had Mohammad Shami. So between the three of them, they've bowled four top quality overs and defending 5 runs, 6 to win with quality of batsmen that Mumbai have up their sleeve. I thought it was never going to be possible. Punjab just had to probably hang in there and hope for something to happen. But ball after ball to land those Yorkers with that accuracy and not letting the quality of De Kock or Rohit to either lap or get under the ball and hit. It was very, very good to see. And I would say again, probably it was the sluggish running of De Kock which cost Mumbai the game, where they needed 2 runs of the last ball in the super over and he couldn't complete it. So I think both teams actually put their bodies on the line. They put everything that was possible. Every ounce of energy was brought into the game. So it was great spectacle. And that led us to the second set of super overs.
Absolutely, and again, I thought Chris Jordan bowled really well to keep it down to keep it to 12 runs. Thankfully, it was only 12 and not 16. Thanks to Mayank Agarwal's fantastic effort at the boundary, jumping over the boundary and pushing the ball back into play and keeping it down to 2 runs of the last ball, which led it to be a very gettable, it's a stiff target, definitely, but a very gettable, 13 runs in the super over. And in walks Chris Gayle. At the beginning of the first super over, a friend of mine, he texted me and saying, "Why is Chris Gayle not batting here?" And I was explaining to them, listen, probably Punjab, want someone who can run doubles at this point in time. Gayle also takes a little bit of time to get going. And then what happens? First ball, Trent Boult bowls a full toss, and Gayle smokes it out of the park.
Yeah, great to watch. And I think that 6 kind of sealed it for Punjab. But then again, it needed Mayank Agarwal to hit those 2 boundaries to seal the game for them. So it was a very tensed affair. But I think Kings 11 knew it, that they could win it once they only allowed Mumbai to score those 11 runs. So mention for Chris Jordan's skill as well. Mayank Agarwal, of course, had that brilliant save. But then that was only because Pollard didn't get that elevation because Jordan didn't allow that elevation. So Pollard tried to make the best of it. And then Mayank Agarwal put his body again on the line and saved those crucial 5 runs for Punjab. So all in all, brilliant execution of their plans from both sides. And I think it meant for great viewing. And Mumbai will be very disappointed to let go of those 2 points yet again. But then again, Punjab getting those 2 points makes for a very interesting remainder of this tournament. Mind you, this was second game for Mumbai in Dubai, and they end up losing both their games in super overs.
It's going to be a tough pick for the player of the match for the second game. Who are you going to go with?
I'll still stick with KL Rahul as the man of the match. Had he not stayed, there are great hitters and dashers at the other end, but you still need somebody. 20 overs is still a very long time for someone to actually negotiate. So full marks to him for the quality of attack that he was up against and how well he played. So for that alone, I think he is still the man of the match for me.
My pick was actually Mohammad Shami. So I think he was very good at the top of the innings, got 2 key wickets, got Mumbai to a poorer start than what they would have expected, and then bowling that super over, knowing that he only had 5 runs to defend, and then nailing Yorker after Yorker against 2 very good batsmen to concede less than a run a ball in that situation was just brilliant. So my vote goes to Mohammad Shami. Right. So we've talked about the teams at the bottom of the table, and there's a few with the same number of points. So we've got 2 of them facing off tomorrow. It's the Chennai Super Kings versus the Rajasthan Royals. How do you see this one going?
I'll back Chennai this time, and I think Rajasthan have not been able to string together the kind of performance over the 40 overs that can see them through the line.
And it'll be interesting to see who they go to replace Dwayne Bravo, who's out for a week or a couple of weeks. We might probably see Imran Tahir coming in, or would they want to bring in Mitchell Sankner, who also offers, while offering left arm spin, also offers a lot with the bat and in the field. It'll be interesting to see. I'd be pleased to see either one of them in the team. So let's see what happens. That's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like and share it with your friends. Subscribe to our channel to keep more videos coming your way. And as always, we'll be back tomorrow with more cricket for you. Until then, see ya.